And I heard a voice say, "Come up hither." At first, I didn't realize that the voice was speaking to me. I thought everybody heard it. "Come up hither," the voice said again. Then I looked and saw Jesus standing about where the top of the tent would be. As I looked up again, the tent had disappeared. The folding chairs had disappeared. Every tent pole had disappeared. The pulpit had disappeared, and God permitted me to see into the spirit realm. Jesus was standing there, and I stood in his presence. He was holding a crown in his hands. This crown was so extraordinarily beautiful that human language cannot begin to describe it. Jesus told me, "This is a soul winner's crown. My people are so careless and indifferent. This crown is for every one of my children. I speak and say, 'Go speak to this one or pray for that one.' But my people are too busy. They put it off, and souls are lost because they will not obey me." When Jesus said that, I wept before him. I knelt down and repented for my failures. Then Jesus said to me again, "Come up hither." It seemed as if I went with him through the air until we came to a beautiful city. We did not actually go into the city, but we beheld it at a close range, as one might go up on a mountain and look down on a city in the valley. It was beautiful beyond words. Jesus said that people selfishly say they are ready for heaven. They talk about their mansions and the glories of heaven, while many around them live in darkness and hopelessness. Jesus said I should share my hope with them and invite them to come to heaven with me. Then Jesus turned to me and said, "Now let us go down to hell."
Yeah, and then he goes on down to hell. The other thing that I want to say here is like I say, see he says some things that are somewhat true here. You know what we should be doing, etc. You know, again, part of the thing with any false teacher, they mix some truth with the falsity. In other words, you know, yeah, there's some elements of truth here. Um, and then he takes him on down to hell. If you want, we could skip a few paragraphs here.
Now, note this is his fourth trip to hell?
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That's where I was headed. You got it.
So we went down to hell, and as we went into that place, I saw what appeared to be human beings wrapped in flames. I said, "Lord, this looks just like it did when I died and came to this place on April 22nd, 1933. You spoke, and I came back up out of here. I then repented and prayed, seeking your forgiveness, and you saved me. Only now I feel so different. I am neither afraid nor horrified as I was then." Jesus told me, "Warn men and women about this place." And I cried out with tears that I would. He then brought me back to earth. I became aware that I was kneeling on the platform by the folding chair, and Jesus was standing by my side. As he stood there, he talked to me about my ministry. He told me some things in general that he later explained in more detail in another vision. Then Jesus disappeared, and I realized I was still kneeling on the platform. I could hear people praying all around me.
As you said, another appearance to hell. This is another side story here too. Well, he saw heaven, from a distance, as he said, on a mountainside. Then he sees hell, and this is one of the things too that we see a lot of these modern people do. But this actually goes back when I looked at the Voice of Healing magazine back in the 50s. You know, this was the publication originally that Gordon Lindsay put out of Branham, and then Oral Roberts, and then Hagin was in there, and all of these guys, the famous post World War II revivalists and stuff. You'll see books advertised and everything else that do the same thing. All kinds of people go to heaven and hell, and I like what Justin Peters calls them, heavenly tourists. you know, and nobody ever sees the exact same things. Everything
Yeah.
is always different, you know, and I always have that question is like, if you and I, you know, we went to a city that neither one of us had been to before, we go there separately, there would be some common things that we would talk about. Say, yeah, I saw that. You know, if we just say San Francisco, you say, yeah, I saw the Golden Gate Bridge. Well, I did too. You know, now you might go in some neighborhoods I didn't go into or whatever,
Yeah.
but there would be some commonality, and this is one of those things. Now, Hagin doesn't get real specific here. Now, there's going to be some more stuff later on, but at any rate,
I find it interesting
mhm,
that he has all of these out of body experiences,
yes,
going to hell and all of this.
hmm
Again, going back to what we talked about
hmm
earlier in one of our episodes, where the man asks for God to send someone back
hmm
to warn
hmm
his brothers,
hmm
and God
hmm
basically tells the man they wouldn't even believe if I
hmm
sent them. If they don't believe, then
hmm
they won't believe, you know?
yes,
And
yes,
I mean, to me, I've never had, like we've both talked about, we've had what we would call supernatural experiences.
yes,
I've never had any kind of thing like this happen to me, you know,
no,
where I
no,
thought I went to heaven or hell or either one.
no,
But
mm-mm.
to me, just growing up,
hmm
reading the Bible, hearing about hell, to me,
hmm
that was enough.
yes,
Like,
me too.
like
hmm
I don't need
hmm
I don't need Kenneth Hagin's telling me that hell is real. I already
hmm
believe it's real.
yes, absolutely.
And
Same
that's
here.
just kind of my thought on it, is like,
hmm
is he just making this stuff up so that they'll be like, oh, well, it must be real because he actually saw it. Well, no, you believe the Bible's real.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Well, it reminds me of that story, that 10-year-old boy who later recanted and said that he, you know, that his father put him up to it, where
Right.
he claimed that he went to heaven, I believe, or whatever. And you know, and it's just like, I like, again, I'll refer to Justin Peters, where he said, I don't need some 10-year-old kid to tell me that heaven is real. You know, the Bible already
Right.
tells me that. I already believe that. I don't need him to tell me. And then, you know, and then you have all these other outlandish stories, you know, I mean, you know, of people seeing all kinds of stuff in heaven and hell, you know, and all this. It's just like, no, you know, I mean, I don't believe any of these stories. Sorry, I just don't. You know, I mean, there's way too much of that, you know, or like there's several people who've seen, you know, these storage rooms where they say there's these body parts. Really? You know,
Yeah.
why would God, who can create something out of nothing, need a room of spare body parts?
Right. I'll tell you this. There was a woman, she's passed away.
Mm-hmm.
She went to the church that I'm at now, and I think it's Heidi Baker that really
Mm-hmm.
promoted that whole body part thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard
Um,
her. Mm-hmm.
this poor woman, she
Mm-hmm.
smoked for years,
Mm.
and
Mm.
to the day she died, believed
Mm-hmm.
that God was going to give her new lungs on
Mm.
this earth, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this is just the false hope that this
Mm-hmm.
stuff gives to people, you know. Not
Mm-hmm.
that God couldn't heal her,
Right. Mm-hmm.
but when you get this whole mindset of, oh, there's this storage house in heaven that's got
Mm-hmm.
extra body
Mm-hmm.
parts, and if I keep saying them,
Mm-hmm.
declaring it enough,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
then God has to give it to me.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
it's just very misleading.
Oh, it is. Yeah, and it's like I say, God doesn't need a storage area for spare body parts. He can create something out of nothing.
Right.
So, you know, he would never need that. You know, that it's just, it doesn't make any sense at all when people say that kind of stuff. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, again, you know, if God's going to do a creative miracle, he doesn't need a spare room in heaven to do it. You know, that
Right.
it just, and again, that's not biblical. There's nothing in the Bible that tells us there's any such thing.
You know, talking about, if you listen to this one or that one or that one, that
Mm-hmm.
that all
Mm-hmm.
have their different ideas of they visited heaven. One of the wildest ones that I've heard was Kat Kerr,
Yes.
who talks about Christmas land.
Yes.
And I mean, like, this lady is certifiable.
Yes, exactly. Well,
It's like,
Justin calls her. He says she's on the frequent flyer program.
oh yeah, she goes there daily.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it's just like, yeah. And then there's supposed to be a selfie of Jesus and Santa Claus. It's like, really, really. It's like, no.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's crazy.
I think the real miracle is, why would anybody believe a person like that? That's the real miracle. It's just like, geez,
Right.
I just have no use for any of those people. So.
Well, and I'll tell you this too. One thing that you do see that is the same in all of these stories. And if you read the Bible and you look at like John when he saw his vision of heaven, okay?
Yes.
Jesus was his focus.
Yes, absolutely.
If you listen to these stories,
yes,
as however grand or whatever they might be, the focus is not Jesus. Jesus is a side thought. Like, oh yeah, Jesus was there too, but there was Santa Claus and the Jello swimming pools and
all kinds of crazy stuff. Yes,
all kinds of crazy stuff, and it all is about like just indulging me, my selfish thoughts, my selfish desires, all this, and just ridiculous stuff. And when we get to heaven, one thing that I always, because my great grandma, she died when I was like between 2 and 3 years old. I remember it. It was I remember going to her funeral and everything, and always having this thought of like, being reunited with loved ones and stuff. But Jesus is going to be the focus of heaven.
Yes, absolutely.
Everything else aside, whatever else is there, Jesus is the focus.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Amen.